So now let's begin. I would like to invite Greg Stevens, Mcity's research director, to come to the podium to introduce our first use case. Greg?
Okay, thank you, Henry. So, Greg Stevens, research director, been doing this for a year now. It's been a great opportunity. Prior to this, I worked a long career at Ford Motor Company, where I was the chief engineer of all the driver assist features. So really relevant experience for here coming to my second career. My Mcity background is that at Ford, I was the founding member of the initial sort of circle of companies that founded Mcity. So I had the really nice opportunity of when none of this existed and we put the ceremonial first shovels in the ground, I got to participate in that. So going from, a first shovel of dirt to what's been created now has just been awesome to watch. So let's dive in. We actually have 6 demos. The first one actually is going to be interactive. It's teleoperation, and Dan Linzell is going to be our volunteer. Not yet. We'll cue you when we need you. Slide advancer. Nothing happens without a great team, right? And VI Grade has been an outstanding partner for us in this endeavor. Ian Dodds is the technical director. Scott Bergeron has been very helpful for the team as well. They also donated the simulator that is right next door in the aux building that Daniel will be sitting in here as we do the demo. And then the Mcity engineering team under Derek Johnson has put in huge hours, as well as Sean's Michigan Traffic Lab team. So there's sort of 2 themes in this use case that I want you to keep in mind. One is, how do we do human factors experiments for how humans interact with automated driving features? And then the other theme is risky situations. And how do we put those actually together to see how humans interact with these automated driving features when risky situations occur? And if we're talking about risky situations, Dmitry Dolgov from Waymo was here recently at University of Michigan and gave a really great talk. And he included this slide of risky scenarios that Waymo's actually captured in real life events. And you see, top left there is a bicyclist losing control because he's doing a wheelie. The terrifying one right next to it is a small child running out into traffic. The next one over is a skateboarder who was tailgating on a car who then fell off and landed in the lane of travel. The next one, the top right one there, is particularly interesting because I think if you think about human factors, it's not just like level 4, which are these cases where maybe an AV would get into trouble and need a human to help remotely operate them out of trouble. But it's really interesting, actually potentially more interesting to me at the level 2 and the level 3 stage. So if you think about a level 2, 3 feature like Tesla full self-driving, the driver's responsibility is to supervise safe operation of the vehicle, right? So they have to be supervising to handle situations like this. How does that work? That's actually a big human factors challenge, and we can look at that using this simulator setup that we have here. The pickup truck that dropped a gas grill into the road, that's the top right one there, think about that in the level 3 use case, right? Think about that like Mercedes Drive Pilot, which is a level 3 feature that's being sold. In a situation like that, the driver is checked out of the driving task. They're doing something else, and now they have to re-engage in the task, probably while the vehicle's doing some sort of an evasive lane change to get out of the way of that gas grill. So how does that reaction go? We can look at that, right? We can do those experiments here at Mcity. Quickly across the bottom, a tree falling across the road, a flooded road, a cop who's making gestures about where the AV should go, and the final one is just an inattentive driver who's drifting out of their lane into the lane of travel. So the actual demo we're going to do is a level 4 use case of we're going to have our AV out on the track. It's going to drive in autonomous mode for a bit. It's going to get stuck behind actually a virtual truck. And then Dan Linzell, as our remote teleoperator, will be sitting in the simulator. He will take over control of the vehicle. He will drive from the simulator the actual vehicle on the track, maneuver it around that virtual obstacle, and then hand it back to control by the AV feature. So benefits that Mcity brings, particularly in this use case. One is it's a safe way to do risky things, right? Dan's going to be sitting in a simulator, right? There's no chance of harm coming to Dan today, right? But we can, we can evaluate risky scenarios. The one we're going to pose to him is not going to be particularly risky today because we didn't really want to put him on the spot. But the second thing is there's added realism by actually putting the vehicle in the loop, right? When people drive in simulators, often they say it feels like a video game. And so their reactions aren't really like what real humans do. But Dan's going to know that he's driving an actual vehicle, right? So it's not just a video game. He will be in charge of the safe operation of a vehicle on the track. And then the final thing is that when we take the whole vehicle and put it into the loop, you save a lot of time and effort, actually, because you don't have to model the entire vehicle with its nonlinear tires and all its control systems on board. You can just put it in the loop and use its reactions as they occur. So now Derek Johnson is going to come up and he'll give you some orientation on what you're going to see during the demo. And here's where Daniel and I head over to the aux building. We're walking over to the aux building because that's where the simulator is. But the simulator doesn't have to be here. The simulator could be anywhere. As long as there's a low latency, high bandwidth connection to Mcity, which we can get nationwide these days, you can run it from any simulator anywhere. So, Derek.
So hold your Ohio State beat not Thanks, Greg. As Greg said, I'm Derek Johnson. I'm the principal engineer here. And what I'll be doing is I'll be doing two things for you. First, I'll be introducing the feeds that you're seeing here. And the second thing is I'll be doing a voiceover narration of what's happening as it's happening. So on the left here, we're getting logged into a drone feed. But I'm gonna stick on the right here. Before I go too deep here, we've all seen these signs, local and remote. So local means here at the facility. So the feeds you're seeing on the local feed are local to us. They're happening right here in Ann Arbor, right behind you at the facility. That's their source. On the other side, on the right side, there's remote. Those are coming from next door at our aux building. And like Greg said, that doesn't have to be, just a little air gap from here to there, 50 feet. It could be in another state or on the West Coast. So let me dig in a little bit. On the left, you're going to see our drone chase cam. We have our facilities test manager, Jim Lawler, is our pilot today, and he'll be following the vehicle under test, or the real vehicle here, which you see now has a little red roof and a white car. On the right side here, we have some simulated feeds, and this is where our friends from VI Grade come in. On the left of the remote screen, we have a simulated drone chase cam. So we've put a virtual camera in the scene, and it's roughly in the same position as our real drone out on the facility. And at the bottom right here, we have the same view that Daniel Linzell is going to have when he's driving the vehicle. In the top right, you can see we have also patched in a camera feed from over there, so you can see what's happening over there. You can see that it's being driven by a real person, and that will be part of the takeover. When the test begins, the vehicle will proceed forward. It'll make a left turn among traffic, and it will get stuck behind a stranded vehicle. And at that point, it will phone home for help, and Daniel Linzell will take over and move the real vehicle around the virtual vehicle. So I want to stress one more time that on the left, you will see the real vehicle. You will not see the virtual vehicles on the left. They are only in simulation over here on the right. All right, we are moving south now. So that is AutoAir driving that vehicle. After a few snags, we're off to the races. So that vehicle will come to the next intersection. It will make a left turn. And after it makes that left turn, it will encounter a stranded vehicle. There it goes. It's being a little cautious. And there you see the stranded vehicle in front of it. And at this point, the vehicle will slow down and stop and phone home for help. And it's at this point that Daniel Linzell is being instructed to put his foot on the brake, hands on the wheel, and the takeover will happen. He's now driving. So he is driving from that building, the vehicle on the facility here, and he's doing so with only the simulation to look at.
Oh.
Uh-oh. See, we said we weren't going to put him on the spot, but...
He's got to keep his day job, I guess.
So I think we may do another round there. I'm waiting. Yep, we're gonna go ahead and reset and give him another try here.
That's the first time he ever drove that, right there.
The very first time he's ever driven that. Now, I will say, yeah. Okay, so this is our safety driver driving the vehicle back to the restart. I promise you, our safety driver cannot see those virtual vehicles, so it's not his fault. He's driving through them.
I'm not saying that out loud.
I won't say that either.
While we reset, questions from the audience, happy to shoot them up to Derek, and I'll run around. Yeah.
I was just wondering, you talked about like simulating as if it was an Ann Arbor driver. When you have other people test, do you simulate drivers from other cities? So would you simulate like a road on, like a busy road in LA?
Gotcha, that's a great question. I'm assuming everybody at home could hear that because it was on the microphone. So
that's right.
I think I'll answer that in two ways. One is we certainly could simulate a different scenario with a different road geometry, so say a busy LA highway. That would be a matter of setting up that particular digital twin, which is, it's difficult to do a digital twin of an actual place, but you could certainly set up within a matter of hours any scenario that is close to something in the real world. The other part of that answer is, can we get behavior other than Ann Arbor? Well, we'd have to get those thousands of hours of that particular region's driving in order to train on those. So again, going back to Dean Tolle's remark about data, data's king. And so we would need that data to create that particular region's behavior.
At the moment, what you will see is an Arbor driver in highway if you want.
Yeah.
So they can drive, but it's another conservative drivers for LA freeways.
How would that go, do you think? I don't know. Yeah.
So, Derek, have you got an instrument to measure what is the latency from the basically sensor data coming and then
Sure.
the command coming?
Sure.
And how much is, for example, the network? How much is the simulation? You guys do the mixed realities kind of simulation. How much the processing?
Excellent question. So the question was involving latency. And I'm glad you asked that because we mentioned we were using Verizon 5G. In this particular case, the data that we're sending is going through Wavelength, which is an edge installation in Detroit. So a single path, so from the vehicle up into the cloud, we've gotten as good as 9 milliseconds. Oh, we're running, pardon me. So they took off without me, which is great because we don't want that vehicle sitting still. But again, you're seeing the same demo. We're just giving Danielle another option or another chance to run it here. But latency is a great question. Single path, we've seen numbers as good as 9 milliseconds for single path using Verizon Wavelength. So we've come to a stop again. The AV has phoned home for help, and Daniel's going to get another chance to free up this AV. And it does bring up a lot of questions about why we would want to be doing this kind of research. That's better. This is very difficult. In fact, when I first did this, the psychological weight of knowing that there was a real human being in the vehicle that I was driving, Greg Stevens was exactly right that it's not like playing a video game because you know that. So I think that was a much better job there. And now the handoff is back.
I have a quick follow-up question. So given that the network bandwidth and latency can be variable, is there any kind of building intelligence to adapt based on available network resources to maybe send less data or compress the data in some way to, based on the network conditions?
So I think that's a great question. I think it's also another great idea and a great area for research. So not with this demo. So we're taking what we get. So if we see a latency spike, right, we're going to get less updates back to the vehicle. It looks like we're resetting again, so we can do this a third time. But that would be an excellent area or avenue for research. I think you should visit our website and perhaps put in a proposal for it to be one of the 10.
I will say we are using open source standards, so if you've used ROS, the Robot Operating System, there's a lot of underlying things that you'll already be familiar with, something called Foxglove. So remote researchers can kind of subscribe to the various signals that they're interested in on the vehicle. And so in that way, you can adjust the performance during an experiment. You could, we probably couldn't send you like all the LiDAR point clouds in real time. We'll wait for 6G for that. Maybe Brad's working on that. But, so you can adjust what we send you from your end. So there's some of that.
He's trying to go to the right now. This is interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
This is actually more difficult. I struggle with this one.
Well, he's got it. Maybe he's going to hit the curb a little. No.
Wow.
Okay.
All right.
Hey. All right. Other questions, Nick?
Thank you. This is a really impressive demo. Is there potential, and maybe this is on the roadmap of what Mcity 2.0 is considering, for multi-teleoperators to exist in the same demonstration that are not talking to each other or that can talk to one another? And how is Mcity sort of a unique place for that?
So that is a difficult question. So I believe the question was, are there plans to kind of ramp this up and deal with multi-agent and multi-teleoperators remotely? And that is one of the areas that Greg Stevens has identified as potential research for this. Asking the questions, what are the ratios that a teleoperator should have? Is it 5 to 1? Is it 10 to 1? And that's, if I'm a teleoperator, am I in charge of 10 vehicles? And then how do we help that teleoperator deal with the situational awareness from one event to the next? Because just being dropped into a place. Yes, excellently done. All right. At this point, I think I'm going to hand it back to Greg Stevens, and he's going to invite Daniel to share his experience. One final question? Okay.
Yeah, just to be clear about how this is all working. So you've got the simulation feeding into the mixed reality environment, feeding those virtual agents in the environment back to the car, and it's running the ADS on the car and reacting to those virtual agents that you're creating, and then feeding all that back in? Okay, thank you.
Yep. Good question.
Thanks.
Okay, Greg?
All right. Good, and an exciting display of the fact that we have an agile team that can fix things on the fly. So at this point, maybe we're going to have Daniel Linzell give some comments about his experience.
Thank you, Greg. I don't know how much of my adventure you watched, but I did get better nominally each time. And I guess, first off, I'm a big Formula One fan, even before Drive to Survive came out. I used to think I could be a Formula One driver. That is now evidently not the case. So, but I will say, the experience was round one terrifying, round two, better, and round three I killed it, right? Didn't I? Okay. So, but anyway, I felt immersed in the environment. I certainly was concerned about the truck, right? Because whatever's in that truck is important. It's probably a bunch of, it is like Prime Days today, right? So it's a bunch of Amazon stuff, critical things, and certainly I was very concerned about the poor individuals who were in the actual vehicle, right? So, but it was I was immersed, and I can certainly see how this platform can benefit, like I said before, everybody involved in ensuring that our transportation fabric, right, is robust as technology continues to change the way that we get from point A to point B. So thank you so much, Greg. Thank you, everybody, for letting me do this. I didn't hit a curb, at least, a real curb, because he told me I could do that. And I do need to talk to the individuals who were in the car and make sure that they're okay psychologically. So anyways, thank you.